Sarah Chen sat in the back corner of Professor Williams's xenobiology class, her brown eyes focused on her tablet as she took notes. Around her, the other students chatted excitedly about the new alien species they were studying. The Zephyrians had just made first contact with Earth 3 months ago, and everyone was fascinated by their advanced technology and warrior culture. "Miss Chen, what do you think about the Zephyrian military structure?" Professor Williams asked, trying to draw her into the discussion. Sarah looked up briefly, her voice barely above a whisper. "They seem efficient." She quickly returned to her notes, ignoring the snickers from some classmates. Marcus Thompson, the class show-off, rolled his eyes. "Come on, Professor. Sarah probably thinks they're scary. I bet she's never even seen a real fight." More laughter filled the room. Sarah's grip on her stylus tightened slightly, but she remained silent. She had learned long ago that drawing attention to herself only caused problems. Better to be invisible, unremarkable, forgotten. After class, Sarah walked alone across the university campus. The Earth Defense Academy was buzzing with activity as news reports played on every screen. The Zephyrian delegation was arriving tomorrow for peace talks, but not everyone was happy about it. Some factions within the galactic community saw humanity as weak, unworthy of respect. As Sarah entered her small dormitory room, her wrist communicator buzzed. The caller ID showed Commander Hayes, Level Black classification. She quickly activated the privacy shields and answered. "Agent Nightshade reporting," she said, her entire demeanor shifting. Gone was the shy, quiet student. Her voice was now crisp, professional, deadly calm. "Sarah, we have a situation." Commander Hayes's gravelly voice came through the encrypted channel. "Intelligence suggests the Krillian Empire plans to sabotage tomorrow's peace talks. They want to make it look like humanity attacked the Zephyrian delegation." Sarah moved to her closet, pressing her palm against a hidden scanner. The back panel slid away, revealing an arsenal that would make most military units jealous. Plasma rifles, quantum blades, tactical armor, and weapons from a dozen different worlds lined the hidden compartment. "What's the mission profile?" she asked, running her fingers over a sleek black combat suit. "The Krillians have embedded deep cover operatives in the university. We believe they're posing as students or faculty. Your job is to identify and neutralize the threats without compromising your cover or the peace talks." Sarah nodded, already formulating plans. "Understood. What's my support structure?" "You're going solo on this one. Too much risk of exposure with a team. The entire future of human-alien relations could depend on these talks succeeding." After ending the call, Sarah stared at her reflection in the mirror. For 5 years she had maintained her cover as an ordinary university student. Nobody knew that she was Earth's most lethal operative, trained from childhood by the shadow organization known as the Terran Defense Initiative. They called her Nightshade because she could slip through enemy lines like darkness itself, leaving no trace except her fallen targets. The next morning, Sarah arrived early for her strategic alien relations seminar. She positioned herself where she could observe all entrances while appearing to read her textbook. Her enhanced senses, modified through years of genetic therapy and cybernetic implants, scanned the room for anomalies. 3 seats away, she noticed Dr. Reeves, the guest lecturer from the Astronomical Research Institute. His biosignature was wrong. Subtle differences in bone density, muscle composition, and neural activity patterns suggested extensive surgical modification. Not human modifications either. Krillian bioengineering was distinctive once you knew what to look for. As students filtered in, Sarah identified 2 more suspects. Jenny Martinez, supposedly a transfer student from Mars Colony, had the telltale signs of Krillian memory implants. Her eye movements followed patterns consistent with recently implanted false memories. The third was Professor Williams himself. His behavior had been subtly different for the past week, and now Sarah could detect trace amounts of Krillian neural control pheromones in his biochemistry. The peace delegation arrived at noon with great fanfare. The Zephyrian ambassadors were impressive beings, standing 7 feet tall with crystalline skin that shifted between blue and purple. Their leader, Ambassador Zeth Carey, carried himself with the bearing of a warrior who had seen countless battles. Sarah watched from the crowd as the delegation entered the main auditorium for the opening ceremony. Security was tight, but she knew it wouldn't be enough against Krillian infiltrators. The enemy was already inside the perimeter. During lunch break, Sarah excused herself to the restroom. She slipped into a maintenance tunnel she had mapped weeks ago, moving through the university's hidden passages toward the auditorium's upper levels. Her black tactical suit was stored in the emergency cache she had hidden months ago, and she changed quickly in the cramped space. As Nightshade, she was no longer the quiet, invisible student. Every movement was precise, calculated, lethal. She made her way to the auditorium's lighting control room, where she could observe the ceremony while remaining hidden. Through her tactical scope, she watched Dr. Reeves position himself near the stage. His body language suggested he was preparing to act. Sarah's enhanced hearing picked up whispered commands in Krillian battle cant coming from his direction. Jenny Martinez had taken a position by the main exit, blocking the escape route. Professor Williams was on stage with the other faculty, perfectly positioned to strike at the Zephyrian delegation when they least expected it. Sarah's earpiece crackled with an urgent message from Commander Hayes. Nightshade, we're detecting energy weapon signatures throughout the building. Multiple Krillian strike teams are moving into position. You need to stop this now. The ceremony began below, with Ambassador Zethkari stepping forward to address the assembled crowd. Sarah could see the subtle hand signals passing between the Krillian operatives. They were coordinating for a simultaneous strike that would eliminate the delegation and frame humanity for the massacre. Sarah checked her weapons one final time. 2 quantum pistols, a molecular blade, and an assortment of non-lethal takedown devices. She would have to move fast and strike without any of the operatives realizing they were under attack until it was too late. The quiet girl from the back of the class was about to become Earth's last hope for peace. Ambassador Zethkari's voice resonated through the auditorium as he spoke about the potential for peace between their species. Sarah watched through her scope as Dr. Reeves slowly reached inside his jacket. The movement was subtle, but she could see the outline of a Krillian plasma disruptor against his ribs. Sarah activated her wrist-mounted grappling system and silently descended from the lighting booth. She landed behind the last row of seats just as Jenny Martinez began moving toward the stage. The Krillian operative's hand was already on her concealed weapon. Moving like a shadow, Sarah approached Jenny from behind. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to move faster than normal human perception could follow. She pressed a neural stunner against Jenny's neck, and the false student collapsed silently. Sarah caught her body and lowered her gently to the floor, making it look like Jenny had simply fainted. 1 down, 2 to go. Dr. Reeves was now openly reaching for his weapon as Ambassador Zethkari continued his speech about mutual cooperation and understanding. Sarah needed to cross 30 feet of open auditorium without being seen by hundreds of witnesses or security cameras. She activated her personal cloaking field, a piece of experimental technology that bent light around her body. The device only worked for short periods and drained enormous amounts of power, but it would give her the seconds she needed. Sarah sprinted down the side aisle, invisible to human eyes but knowing that Zephyrian vision could detect different light spectrums. She had to trust that the ambassadors would be too focused on the ceremony to notice the brief shimmer of her passage. Dr. Reeves pulled his weapon free just as Sarah reached him. She grabbed his wrist and twisted, applying pressure to a nerve cluster that would paralyze his arm. The plasma disruptor clattered to the floor as she caught him in a sleeper hold. To any observer, it looked like the professor had suddenly felt ill and a helpful student was assisting him. "Medical emergency," Sarah called out in her normal, quiet voice. "I think Dr. Reeves needs help." Security rushed over as Sarah helped carry the unconscious Krillian operative toward the exit. 2 down, 1 to go, but Professor Williams was the most dangerous threat. He was on stage less than 10 feet from the Zephyrian delegation, and Sarah couldn't reach him without causing a scene that would disrupt the peace talks. She needed a different approach. Sarah slipped away from the security team once they took charge of Dr. Reeves. She made her way backstage through a service corridor, her mind racing through possible solutions. Williams would strike soon, probably during the ceremonial gift exchange that was about to begin. Backstage was bustling with university staff, media technicians, and security personnel. Sarah spotted Williams' briefcase on a table near the stage entrance. Her enhanced vision revealed the faint energy signature of concealed weapons inside, not just a plasma disruptor but something much worse. The reading suggested a quantum destabilizer, a weapon that could level the entire auditorium. Sarah approached the briefcase, keeping her movements casual and unremarkable. She was just another anxious student watching the historic ceremony. Her fingers found the hidden clasps that would open the case, but before she could act, Professor Williams appeared beside her. "Hello, Sarah," he said. But his voice was different now, colder, with the subtle harmonic undertones of Krillian speech. "You've been very busy today." Sarah's hand froze on the briefcase. Her cover was blown, but she couldn't let Williams know how much she understood. "Professor, are you feeling all right? You look pale." Williams smiled, but it was a predator's expression. "Drop the act, Agent Nightshade. Did you really think we didn't know about Earth's little shadow organization? We've been watching you for months." Sarah's mind raced. If the Krillians knew about her, they might know about other Terran Defense Initiative operations. This could be bigger than just sabotaging the peace talks. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, maintaining her frightened student persona. "Perhaps," Williams said, moving closer. "But I think you know exactly what's in this briefcase. And I think you know that in approximately 3 minutes, when I activate the quantum destabilizer, it will look like a human terrorist attack on the Zephyrian delegation. The war that follows will destroy your pathetic species." On stage, Ambassador Zethkari was presenting a ceremonial crystal to the human representatives. The gift exchange was beginning, which meant Williams would act soon. Sarah had to stop him, but she was outnumbered and outgunned. The professor had backup she hadn't detected, and her usual advantages were compromised. "You're making a mistake," Sarah said quietly. "Humans are stronger than you think." Williams laughed. "Your species has existed for barely 200,000 years. The Krillian Empire has ruled the galaxy for millions. You are insects, and insects get stepped on." Sarah activated her emergency beacon, sending a distress signal to Commander Hayes. But help wouldn't arrive in time to stop the attack. She was on her own, just like always. "Last chance, little girl," Williams said, reaching for the briefcase. "Walk away now and you might live to see another day." Sarah's response was swift and brutal. She grabbed Williams's wrist and spun him around, using his own momentum to slam him against the wall. But the professor was stronger than she expected. His Krillian enhancements made him faster and more resilient than a normal human. Williams broke free from her grip and backhanded her across the face. The blow would have killed a normal person, but Sarah's modifications allowed her to absorb the impact and roll with it. She came up in a fighting stance, ready for a real battle. "There's the real Agent Nightshade," Williams sneered. "I was wondering when you'd stop pretending to be weak." Around them, the backstage crew was starting to notice the commotion. Sarah knew she had seconds before security arrived and complicated everything. She needed to end this fight quickly and quietly. Williams pulled a molecular blade from his jacket, the weapon humming with lethal energy. "This is for the glory of the Krillian Empire," he said, lunging forward. Sarah dodged the attack and drew her own weapon, a quantum knife that could cut through any known material. The two blades met in a shower of sparks as molecular fields clashed against quantum edges. The professor was skilled, but Sarah had been training for this her entire life. They fought in deadly silence, their enhanced reflexes allowing them to trade lightning-fast strikes while moving through the backstage area. Sarah gradually forced Williams away from the briefcase, using the terrain to her advantage. But time was running out. On stage, the ceremony was reaching its climax, and Sarah could hear Ambassador Zethkari beginning his closing remarks. If Williams activated that quantum destabilizer, the explosion would not only kill everyone in the auditorium, but also trigger a war that could destroy humanity. Sarah feinted left, then spun right, her quantum blade slicing through Williams's defensive guard. The professor stumbled backward, green Krillian blood seeping through his human disguise. But instead of pressing her attack, Sarah heard something that made her blood run cold. The distinctive whine of a quantum destabilizer charging up. Williams hadn't been trying to win their fight. He had been buying time for someone else to activate the weapon. Sarah spun around and saw a maintenance worker near the briefcase, his hand on a remote detonator. Another Krillian operative she hadn't detected. "Too late, human," Williams gasped, clutching his wounded side. "In 30 seconds, your peace talks become a crater." Sarah launched herself toward the maintenance worker, but Williams tackled her from behind. They crashed into a stack of equipment crates as the quantum destabilizer's charge cycle continued. 25 seconds. The maintenance worker was already running toward the stage, probably planning to position himself for maximum damage. Sarah broke free from Williams's grip and grabbed a piece of broken equipment, hurling it at the fleeing operative. The improvised projectile struck him in the legs, sending him tumbling to the ground. 20 seconds. Sarah reached the fallen Krillian just as he was getting back to his feet. She applied a nerve strike that should have paralyzed him, but his enhanced physiology shrugged off the attack. He backhanded her across the face, sending her flying into the stage curtains. 15 seconds. Through the curtains, Sarah could see Ambassador Zethkari shaking hands with the human diplomats. The Zephyrian leader's crystalline skin was glowing with what Sarah recognized as their species' expression of genuine happiness. He truly believed this ceremony would bring peace between their peoples. The maintenance worker pulled out a backup detonator, his finger hovering over the activation switch. Sarah realized she wouldn't reach him in time to stop the explosion, but she might be able to redirect it. 10 seconds. Sarah sprinted toward the briefcase containing the quantum destabilizer. If she could move it away from the stage, the explosion might be contained to the backstage area. She would die, but hundreds of innocent people would live, and the peace talks could continue. 5 seconds. Sarah grabbed the briefcase and hurled it toward the far wall of the auditorium, using every ounce of her enhanced strength. The case sailed through the air as the Krillian operative pressed the detonator. The quantum destabilizer exploded in a brilliant flash of white light, but the blast was directed away from the main ceremony. The backstage area was devastated, equipment and debris flying everywhere, but the stage remained intact. Sarah was thrown against the wall by the explosion's shockwave, her enhanced body absorbing damage that would have liquefied a normal human. Through ringing ears, she heard screams and shouts as people reacted to the blast. But Ambassador Zethkari's voice cut through the chaos, strong and calm. "Please, everyone remain calm," the Zephyrian leader said. "We appear to have had an equipment malfunction, but no one has been seriously injured." Sarah struggled to her feet, her body aching but functional. The Krillian operatives were both unconscious, buried under debris from the explosion. She had stopped the immediate threat, but she knew this was just the beginning. Security forces flooded the backstage area, and Sarah quickly activated her student persona again. She stumbled out of the wreckage, playing the part of a confused and frightened young woman caught in an accident. "Oh my God," she gasped, allowing her voice to shake. "What happened? Is everyone okay?" A security officer helped steady her. "Just an equipment explosion, miss." "Are you hurt?" Sarah shook her head, though she was actually bleeding from several cuts. "I was just watching from back here when everything went crazy." The officer nodded and moved on to help other people. Sarah used the confusion to slip away from the scene, making her way to a bathroom where she could clean up and assess her injuries. As she washed Krillian blood from her hands, her communicator buzzed with an encrypted message from Commander Hayes. "Nightshade, we've detected quantum signatures consistent with a destabilizer blast. Status report. 3 Krillian operatives neutralized," Sarah whispered into the device. "Immediate threat contained, but this was a coordinated attack." "They knew about TDI operations?" "Understood. We're initiating Protocol 7. All deep cover agents are being recalled for debriefing. Your cover may be compromised." Sarah stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Protocol 7 meant the shadow war between Earth and the Krillian Empire was escalating beyond covert operations. Soon the conflict would become open warfare. But for now, the peace talks were continuing. Through the bathroom's ventilation system, she could hear Ambassador Zethkari addressing the crowd, turning the equipment failure into a teachable moment about cooperation in the face of unexpected challenges. "This incident reminds us that the universe is full of surprises," the Zephyrian leader was saying. "But when different species work together, we can overcome any obstacle." Sarah almost smiled at the irony. If only he knew how close they had all come to dying, and that the equipment failure was actually an assassination attempt by humanity's enemies. Over the next hour, Sarah helped with the cleanup efforts, maintaining her cover as a concerned student. She watched as emergency teams carried away the unconscious Krillian operatives, who would wake up in TDI custody with no memory of how they got there. The peace ceremony concluded successfully, with both human and Zephyrian leaders signing preliminary agreements for cultural and technological exchange. Ambassador Zethgari even mentioned the importance of learning from unexpected events, referencing the equipment failure. As the crowds dispersed, Sarah noticed something troubling. Several students and faculty members were displaying subtle signs of Krillian neural influence. The telltale eye movements, the slightly altered speech patterns, the faint chemical signatures her enhanced senses could detect. The 3 operatives she had neutralized weren't the only Krillian agents on campus. They were just the immediate strike team. The real infiltration was much deeper and more extensive than anyone had realized. Sarah made her way back to her dormitory room, her mind racing with the implications. If the Krillians had successfully embedded agents throughout Earth's academic institutions, they could be gathering intelligence on human technology, culture, and military capabilities. Worse, they could be subtly influencing human policy and decision-making. She activated her secure communications array and began composing a detailed report for Commander Hayes. But before she could finish, her proximity sensors detected movement in the hallway outside her room. Sarah quickly switched to her student workstation, pulling up a harmless assignment on xenobiology as footsteps approached her door. 3 soft knocks, pause, 2 more knocks, pause, then 1 final knock. The pattern identified the visitor as Marcus Thompson, her annoying classmate. "Sarah, it's Marcus. I wanted to check on you after that crazy explosion today." Sarah frowned. Marcus had never shown any interest in her well-being before, and his timing was suspicious, arriving just as she was preparing to report on Krillian infiltration. She moved to her hidden weapons cache, palming a neural stunner before opening the door. Marcus stood in the hallway, but something was wrong with his appearance. His usual cocky expression was replaced by a cold, calculating stare that reminded Sarah of the Krillian operatives she had fought. "Hello, Sarah," Marcus said, and she could hear the harmonic undertones of Krillian speech modification. "We need to talk." Sarah kept her expression neutral while her enhanced senses analyzed Marcus. His biosignature was definitely altered, but unlike the other Krillian operatives, the changes were recent. Very recent. This wasn't a deep cover agent who had been surgically modified for long-term infiltration. This was something else entirely. "Marcus, what did you want to talk about?" Sarah asked, keeping her voice at its usual quiet level while shifting her weight to a defensive stance. Marcus stepped closer, and Sarah caught the scent of Krillian neural control pheromones. Her worst fears were confirmed. The Krillian Empire hadn't just infiltrated Earth with surgically altered agents. They had developed the technology to control existing humans through biochemical manipulation. "I know what you did today," Marcus said, his voice carrying an unnatural harmonic resonance. "The explosion wasn't an accident, was it? You were involved somehow." Sarah's mind raced through possible responses. If Marcus was under Krillian control, then whoever was puppeting him already suspected her true identity. But they might not have definitive proof yet, which meant she still had a chance to maintain her cover. "I don't know what you mean," Sarah said, allowing a note of confusion to enter her voice. "There was an equipment malfunction during the ceremony. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time." Marcus smiled, but the expression was cold and predatory. "Don't play dumb, Sarah. Or should I call you Agent Nightshade?" Sarah's blood ran cold, but she forced herself to maintain her bewildered student act. "Agent what?" "Marcus, are you feeling okay? You're acting really strange." "The Krillian Empire has been watching you for months," Marcus continued, stepping into her room uninvited. "We know about your little shadow organization. We know about your enhancements. We know about your mission to protect the peace talks." Sarah backed away from Marcus, her hand moving closer to the neural stunner concealed behind her back. "I think you've been watching too many conspiracy movies. I'm just a xenobiology student." Marcus laughed, and the sound was disturbingly inhuman. "Your performance is impressive, I'll give you that. But we have recordings of your fight with our operatives. We know exactly what you're capable of." Sarah realized that her situation was far worse than she had initially thought. If the Krillians had surveillance footage of her in action, then not only was her cover blown, but the entire Terran Defense Initiative could be compromised. She needed to get that information to Commander Hayes immediately. "Even if what you're saying were true," Sarah said carefully, "what would you want from me?" Marcus moved to block the doorway, cutting off her escape route. "The Krillian Empire is prepared to offer you a choice. Join us willingly and we'll give you power beyond imagination. Refuse, and we'll extract everything you know about Earth's defenses through more unpleasant methods. Sarah's enhanced hearing detected movement in the hallway outside her room. At least 3 more people approaching, their footsteps coordinated like a military unit. She was surrounded, outnumbered, and her enemy knew her capabilities. But they had made one crucial mistake. They assumed that because they knew about Agent Nightshade, they understood her limitations. They didn't realize that Sarah Chen was more than just Earth's deadliest operative. She was also something the Krillian Empire had never encountered before, a human who refused to surrender. "You know what, Marcus?" Sarah said, her entire demeanor shifting as she dropped her student persona. "I think I'll take option 3. Sarah moved faster than Marcus could react, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to cross the small room in a fraction of a second. She drove the neural stunner into his neck, sending 50,000 volts of electrical energy directly into his nervous system. But instead of collapsing like a normal human, Marcus shrugged off the attack. The Krillian neural control technology had enhanced his physical capabilities along with dominating his mind. He grabbed Sarah's wrist and twisted, forcing her to drop the stunner. "Impressive," Marcus said, his voice now fully modulated with Krillian harmonics. "But futile." Sarah broke free from his grip using a combat technique that involved dislocating her own thumb, then immediately popping it back into place. The maneuver was excruciatingly painful, but allowed her to escape Marcus's hold. The door burst open as 3 more controlled humans entered the room. Sarah recognized them as university staff members, but their eyes now held the same cold intelligence that possessed Marcus. The Krillian Empire was using Earth's own people as weapons against their homeworld. "Surrender now, and your death will be quick," the lead operative said through the mouth of Professor Chen from the engineering department. Sarah activated her emergency beacon, broadcasting a priority distress signal to all TDI assets in the area. Then she grabbed a chair and hurled it through her dormitory window, creating an escape route to the fire escape outside. "Sorry, but I have classes tomorrow," Sarah said, diving through the broken window as energy weapons fired behind her. Sarah landed on the fire escape and immediately began climbing toward the roof. Her enhanced strength allowed her to move faster than her pursuers could follow, but she knew they would be coordinating with other controlled agents throughout the campus. As she reached the rooftop, Sarah's communicator crackled to life. "Nightshade, this is Commander Hayes. We're detecting massive neural control activity across multiple Earth installations. The Krillians have activated sleeper protocols in hundreds of humans." Sarah sprinted across the rooftop toward the adjacent building. "Commander, they know about TDI. They have surveillance footage of my operations. We need to assume all our covers are blown." "Understood. We're initiating Prometheus protocol. All deep cover agents are authorized to abandon their covers and operate openly." The Shadow War just became a real war. Sarah leaped from one building to another, her enhanced legs easily clearing the 20-foot gap. Behind her, she could see controlled humans pouring out of the dormitory building, their movements coordinated with military precision. Prometheus Protocol was the nuclear option for the Terran Defense Initiative. It meant revealing the existence of enhanced human operatives to the general population and mobilizing for open conflict with alien forces. Earth's secret would be exposed, but it was better than losing the war entirely. Sarah made it to the campus communications building and used her override codes to access the emergency broadcast system. If the Krillians were controlling humans through neural manipulation, then the public needed to be warned about the invasion. She activated every communication channel on Earth simultaneously, hijacking television broadcasts, radio signals, and internet feeds. Her image appeared on screens across the planet as she began speaking in her clear, authoritative voice. "Citizens of Earth, this is Agent Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Initiative. For the past hour, our planet has been under attack by the Krillian Empire, an alien force that has developed the technology to control human minds. If you notice anyone displaying unusual behavior, especially coordinated movements or speaking with harmonic undertones, stay away from them and contact local authorities immediately." Sarah paused as energy weapons fire erupted outside the communications building. The controlled humans had found her location and were preparing to assault the facility. "The Krillian Empire believes humanity is weak," Sarah continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the globe. "They think we're easy prey because we're young compared to their ancient civilization. They're about to learn that human beings don't go quietly into the night. Explosions rocked the building as the controlled operatives began their attack. Sarah drew her weapons and prepared for the fight of her life. But for the first time since the crisis began, she was smiling. The quiet girl from the back of the class was done hiding. It was time to show the galaxy what humanity was really capable of. Sarah's broadcast reached every corner of Earth within minutes. In homes, offices, and military installations around the world, people stopped what they were doing to listen to the quiet student they had never heard of before. But her words carried an authority that cut through disbelief and confusion. The controlled humans smashed through the communications building's main entrance just as Sarah finished her message. She counted at least 20 operatives, all moving with the synchronized precision of a hive mind. Their faces were familiar, professors and students she had known for years, but their eyes held the cold intelligence of an alien empire. Sarah positioned herself behind the main server rack, using the electronic equipment as cover, while she assessed her tactical situation. The controlled humans were armed with Krillian energy weapons that they must have retrieved from hidden caches around the campus. This invasion had been planned for months, possibly years. "Agent Nightshade," Professor Chen called out, his voice distorted by Krillian vocal modulation. "You have delayed the inevitable, but you cannot stop the Empire's expansion. Surrender now, and we will make your species' absorption into our collective quick and painless." Sarah responded by firing her quantum pistol through the server rack, the weapon's energy beam punching through metal and circuitry to strike Professor Chen in the shoulder. He stumbled backward but didn't fall, his enhanced physiology keeping him upright despite the wound. "Here's a better idea," Sarah shouted back. "Why don't you try to come and take me?" The controlled humans spread out through the communications building, using military tactics that no university staff should have known. Sarah realized that the Krillian neural control technology didn't just dominate human minds. It downloaded combat programming directly into their brains. Sarah activated her personal defense system, a network of micro-drones that she had hidden throughout the campus over the past few months. The tiny robots emerged from ventilation shafts and electrical conduits, each one armed with neural disruptors designed to interfere with Krillian control signals. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Several of the controlled humans stumbled and clutched their heads as the drones disrupted their neural programming. For a few precious seconds, their original personalities reasserted themselves. "Sarah," Marcus gasped, his eyes clearing as the Krillian influence wavered. "What's happening to me? I can't control my own body." "Fight it, Marcus," Sarah called out, firing at another controlled operative. "The aliens are using you as a puppet, but you can break free." But the Krillian technology adapted quickly. Within moments, the control signal strengthened, overwhelming the disruption field and reasserting dominance over the human subjects. Marcus's eyes went cold again as he raised his weapon toward Sarah. Sarah's communicator buzzed with incoming messages from TDI operatives around the world. The reports were grim. Similar attacks were happening simultaneously in major cities across the planet. Thousands of humans had been turned into unwilling soldiers for the Krillian Empire. But there was also encouraging news. Human military forces were responding faster than the Krillians had anticipated. Fighter jets were scrambling to intercept alien ships in orbit, and ground forces were mobilizing to protect critical infrastructure. More importantly, Sarah's broadcast was having an unexpected effect. Instead of panicking, many humans were organizing resistance cells and helping their neighbors identify controlled individuals. The species that the Krillians had dismissed as weak and primitive was proving to be remarkably resilient. Sarah heard the distinctive whine of quantum engines outside the communications building. Through a window, she could see a Krillian transport ship landing on the campus quad. The real invasion force was arriving to supplement their controlled human agents. Tall insectoid creatures emerged from the transport, their chitinous armor gleaming with integrated technology. These were Krillian warriors, the elite soldiers of an empire that had conquered dozens of worlds. They moved with predatory grace, their multiple arms carrying weapons that could level city blocks. Sarah knew she was outmatched. Even with her enhancements and training, she couldn't fight an entire Krillian strike force alone. But she didn't have to win this battle. She just had to survive long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The controlled humans resumed their assault on her position, but Sarah was already moving. She used her grappling system to reach the building's upper floors, then activated explosive charges she had placed in the communications equipment. The blast brought down half the building, crushing several controlled operatives and forcing the others to retreat. Sarah emerged from the rubble and sprinted toward the quad, where the Krillian warriors were establishing a command post. As she ran, Sarah's enhanced hearing picked up radio chatter from human military forces. Fighter squadrons were engaging Krillian ships over major population centers. An early report suggested that Earth's defenses were holding better than expected. The Krillians had underestimated humanity in more ways than one. They had assumed that Earth's military technology was primitive compared to their advanced weapons. They didn't realize that the Terran Defense Initiative had been secretly developing countermeasures for decades, using intelligence gathered from previous alien encounters. Sarah reached the edge of the quad and observed the Krillian command post. The aliens were setting up some kind of amplification device, probably designed to strengthen their neural control signals and turn more humans into puppets. She had to stop them before they could activate it. But as she prepared to assault the position, Sarah noticed something that made her pause. The Krillian warriors were arguing among themselves, their harmonious speech patterns becoming discordant. There was dissent in their ranks, confusion about why their supposedly easy conquest was meeting such fierce resistance. Sarah's earpiece crackled with a transmission from Ambassador Zethkari. The Zephyrian leader had remained on Earth despite the attack, and his crystalline features were visible on her tactical display. "Agent Chen," the ambassador said, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. "I want you to know that the Zephyrian Republic stands with humanity in this conflict. We have dispatched our own fleet to assist in your defense." Sarah felt a surge of hope. The peace talks hadn't just prevented a war between humans and Zephyrians. They had created an alliance against a common enemy. The Krillian Empire now faced not just Earth's defenses, but the combined might of two species working together. The tactical situation was changing rapidly. Sarah's sensors detected multiple Zephyrian warships entering Earth's solar system, their crystalline hulls gleaming with advanced weaponry. At the same time, human resistance forces were coordinating their efforts, sharing intelligence and resources to maximum effect. The Krillian warriors in the quad were becoming increasingly agitated as reports reached them of setbacks across the planet. Their communications were being intercepted and decoded by human intelligence services, revealing the locations of other invasion forces. Sarah realized that this was her moment. The enemy was distracted, confused, and beginning to doubt their own superiority. It was time to show them exactly what one determined human could accomplish. She checked her weapons one final time, then began her approach toward the Krillian command post. The quiet girl from the back of the class was about to have a very loud conversation with an galactic empire. Sarah approached the Krillian command post using every stealth technique she had learned during her years of training. The alien warriors were focused on their communication equipment, trying to coordinate with invasion forces that were encountering unexpected resistance across the globe. The neural amplification device they were setting up stood 12 feet tall, its crystalline components pulsing with malevolent energy. If activated, it would turn every human within a 100-mile radius into a Krillian puppet. Sarah couldn't allow that to happen. She positioned herself behind a damaged building and observed the enemy force. 8 Krillian warriors, each standing 7 feet tall and armed with weapons that could slice through tank armor. They moved with the confidence of a species that had never faced serious opposition. Sarah activated her quantum blade and checked her remaining ammunition. 2 plasma grenades, 1 molecular disruptor, and her sidearm with half a charge remaining. Against 8 elite alien warriors, it wasn't much, but she had something the Krillians didn't expect: the desperate fury of a human defending her homeworld. She threw the first plasma grenade into the center of the command post, the explosion sending 2 Krillian warriors flying and damaging their communication array. Before the others could react, Sarah was already moving, her enhanced speed carrying her into the heart of their formation. The quantum blade hummed as it sliced through chitinous armor, sending green ichor spraying across the quad. The nearest Krillian warrior turned to face her, its forearms moving to bring multiple weapons to bear, but Sarah was already inside its guard. She drove the blade up through the creature's thorax, piercing its primary heart. The warrior collapsed with a shriek that sounded like tearing metal, its death cry echoing across the campus. The remaining Krillians adapted quickly, spreading out to surround her while maintaining overlapping fields of fire. Their weapons discharged in coordinated volleys, forcing Sarah to dive behind the neural amplifier for cover. Energy beams scorched the air above her head as she activated her second plasma grenade. Instead of throwing it at the enemy, she attached it to the base of the amplification device. If she couldn't survive this fight, she would at least deny the Krillians their primary objective. "Primitive human," one of the warriors called out in accented English. "You delay the inevitable. Your species will serve the Empire, whether willingly or as controlled vessels." Sarah popped up from cover and fired her molecular disruptor, the weapon's beam punching through the speaker's armor and liquefying its internal organs. "Here's what I think about your Empire," she shouted back. The battle became a deadly dance as Sarah used her superior mobility to stay ahead of the Krillians' coordinated attacks. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to dodge energy beams that would have vaporized a normal human, while her quantum blade found gaps in their seemingly impenetrable armor. But there were still 6 warriors left, and Sarah was running out of ammunition and energy. Her enhanced metabolism was burning through nutrients at an unsustainable rate, and she could feel her strength beginning to flag. That's when the cavalry arrived. Zephyrian fighters screamed overhead, their crystalline hulls refracting sunlight into rainbow patterns as they strafed the Krillian positions. Energy beams from their weapons struck with surgical precision, eliminating several enemy soldiers without endangering Sarah. At the same time, human military forces reached the campus. Marines in powered armor poured out of armored transports, their weapons adding to the chaos as they engaged Krillian forces throughout the university. But the most unexpected reinforcement came from the controlled humans themselves. Sarah's microdrones had been broadcasting a continuous disruption signal, and some of the stronger-willed individuals were beginning to break free from Krillian mental domination. Marcus appeared at the edge of the quad, his face streaked with tears as he fought against the alien influence in his mind. "Sarah," he called out, "I can feel them trying to control me, but I won't let them use me against my own species." More controlled humans were breaking free, their personalities reasserting themselves despite the neural programming. The Krillian Empire had made a fundamental error in their understanding of human nature. They assumed that mental domination would be permanent, but they hadn't accounted for the sheer stubborn willfulness that defined humanity. The remaining Krillian warriors found themselves surrounded by enemies on all sides. Zephyrian fighters continued their strafing runs while human marines advanced from multiple directions. Sarah pressed her attack, her quantum blade carving through alien armor as the tide of battle turned decisively. The last Krillian warrior attempted to activate the neural amplifier manually, but Sarah reached the device first. She triggered the plasma grenade she had attached to its base, and the resulting explosion sent crystalline fragments flying in all directions. As the smoke cleared, Sarah stood among the wreckage of the Krillian command post, her tactical suit torn and bloody but her spirit unbroken. Around her, human and Zephyrian forces were securing the area and tending to the wounded. Commander Hayes's voice crackled through her communicator. "Nightshade, we're receiving surrender signals from Krillian forces across the planet. The invasion has failed. I repeat, the invasion has failed." Sarah looked up at the sky, where human and Zephyrian ships were working together to round up the retreating alien vessels. The peace talks had not only prevented one war, they had created an alliance that ended another. Over the following days, the full scope of the Krillian infiltration became clear. The alien empire had been planning their invasion for years, placing sleeper agents throughout human society and gathering intelligence on Earth's defenses. But they had fundamentally misunderstood their target. The Krillians saw humanity as a young, weak species that could be easily conquered and absorbed into their empire. They didn't realize that humans possessed something their ancient civilization had lost: the ability to adapt, evolve, and overcome seemingly impossible odds. Sarah returned to her classes the following week, but her cover as a quiet, unremarkable student was permanently blown. Instead, she found herself at the center of a media storm as the world learned about the shadow war that had been fought in their name. The Terran Defense Initiative was restructured as a public organization, working openly with traditional military forces to defend Earth against future threats. Sarah was offered a promotion to Director of Alien Affairs, but she politely declined. "I prefer field work," she explained to Commander Hayes during their debriefing. "Desk jobs are too quiet for my taste." The peace treaty with the Zephyrian Republic was ratified unanimously by every nation on Earth, marking the beginning of humanity's true entry into the galactic community. The Krillian Empire, meanwhile, faced internal revolt as their subject species learned about the failed invasion and began questioning their ruler's supposed invincibility. Ambassador Zeth Kari established a permanent embassy on Earth, and his first official act was to recommend Sarah for the Zephyrian Medal of Valor, their highest honor for non-citizens. The ceremony was held in the same auditorium where the peace talks had begun, but this time Sarah sat in the front row instead of hiding in the back. Agent Sarah Chen, the ambassador said as he presented the medal, represents the finest qualities of human courage and determination. The galaxy is fortunate to have such individuals standing guard against those who would threaten peace and freedom. As Sarah accepted the award, she thought about all the challenges that lay ahead. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and not all of their future encounters would be friendly. But she was confident that her species would face whatever came next with the same stubborn refusal to surrender that had saved them from the Krillian Empire. The quiet girl from the back of the class had become the symbol of humanity's emergence as a galactic power, and she was just getting started.